A confrontation rarely begins with shouting. It begins with a look, a tone, a sentence that touches the wrong nerve. Someone questions your judgment. A coworker speaks to you with disrespect. A stranger pushes too far. A person you love says something designed to hurt you. And in one careless moment, your calm disappears. Your chest tightens. Your voice rises. Your mind stops thinking and starts fighting. You say more than you intended. You reveal anger, insecurity, and weakness to someone who may have been waiting for exactly that reaction. Then the moment passes, but the damage remains. You replay the conversation for hours. You imagine what you should have said. You regret the words you cannot take back. Perhaps you won the argument, yet lost your dignity, your influence, or the trust of someone important. Most people believe confrontation is won by speaking faster, becoming louder, or striking harder with words. The Stoics understood the opposite. The first person who loses control has already surrendered the strongest position. Calm is not passivity. It is not fear. It is not allowing others to disrespect you. Calm is the ability to remain conscious while another person is being ruled by emotion. It gives you time to see what they cannot see, choose what they cannot choose, and respond with precision instead of impulse. The person in front of you may control the accusation, the insult, or the pressure, but they cannot control your mind unless you hand it to them. In this video, you will learn how to stop doing that. You will discover 7 Stoic applications that turn confrontation from an emotional threat into a test of inner command. Because the greatest victory is not silencing another person. It is reaching the point where no person can silence your reason. Every generation believes it lives in an unusually confrontational world. Social media rewards outrage, news feeds amplify division, workplaces demand constant performance, families carry old tensions beneath polite conversations. Everywhere you turn, someone seems ready to question your judgment, test your patience, or provoke your pride. Yet the Stoics would say that nothing essential has changed. 2,000 years ago, Marcus Aurelius governed an empire filled with political rivals, military crises, betrayal, disease, and public criticism. Epictetus lived as a slave before becoming one of history's clearest teachers of freedom. Seneca served beside an unpredictable emperor whose moods could determine a man's future, fortune, or life. None of them escaped confrontation. They learned to stop giving confrontation authority over their minds. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly reminded himself that when another person acted badly, his first duty was to examine his own judgment. Epictetus taught that people do not disturb us directly. We become disturbed by the meaning we assign to what they do. Seneca warned that anger may begin as a response to injury, but quickly becomes a second injury we inflict upon ourselves. These teachings were never instructions to become passive, agreeable, or silent in the face of injustice. Stoicism does not ask you to tolerate humiliation. It asks you to remain rational enough to answer disrespect without becoming disrespectful, to set boundaries without hatred, and to confront what is wrong without surrendering your character. The Stoics understood something modern psychology also recognizes: emotions spread, anger invites anger, fear multiplies fear, panic infects a room, but calm can interrupt that chain. One steady person can change the emotional direction of an entire confrontation. This is why the real subject is not argument, conflict, or verbal skill. It is self-command. A calm mind sees motives, consequences, and choices that anger makes invisible. It protects your dignity while preserving your ability to act decisively under pressure. Every confrontation asks the same hidden question. Will you act from principle, or will another person's behavior decide who you become in that moment? This is not a video about winning arguments. Winning an argument is easy. You can interrupt louder, collect sharper facts, or deliver a clever insult that leaves another person speechless. But none of those victories guarantee respect. In fact, many of them cost you exactly that. This video is about something far more valuable. It is about becoming the man whose composure cannot be borrowed, stolen, or shaken by anyone else's behavior. Over the next 7 Stoic applications, you will learn how to recognize the first moments before anger takes control, how to steady your body before your emotions gain momentum, how to use silence as a source of strength instead of discomfort, and how to respond from deliberate judgment rather than wounded pride. You will also discover why every confrontation is an opportunity to strengthen your character instead of proving your superiority. None of these ideas require a perfect personality. They require practice. Every difficult conversation becomes another repetition. Every insult becomes another chance to build emotional discipline. Every confrontation becomes another opportunity to prove something, not to other people, but to yourself. Eventually, people will notice something different about you. They will see that pressure no longer speeds up your thinking. Criticism no longer steals your confidence. Conflict no longer controls your decisions. Your calm will begin speaking long before your words do. If that is the kind of strength you want to build, subscribe to the channel and join us on this journey through timeless Stoic wisdom. Now, let's begin with the first principle that changes everything. Stop reacting to other people's emotions before you understand your own. Number 1, stop reacting to their emotions. Every confrontation begins with a choice that most people never notice. It is not the choice of what to say. It is not the choice of whether to stay or leave. It is the choice between reacting to another person's emotions or remaining loyal to your own judgment. Most people fail before the first sentence is finished. Someone raises their voice, and without realizing it, you raise yours. Someone becomes impatient, and your breathing grows faster. Someone questions your competence, and your mind immediately begins preparing a defense instead of searching for the truth. Within seconds, you are no longer responding to reality. You are responding to another person's emotional state. Think about a familiar situation. You have spent weeks preparing an important presentation. Just minutes after you begin, a colleague interrupts and says your idea will never work. The room becomes silent. Everyone turns toward you, waiting for your reaction. Your heart beats faster. Your shoulders tighten. You interrupt, explain every detail, and argue against every criticism. Perhaps your arguments are completely correct. Yet the people watching remember something else before they remember your words. They remember that another person's emotions decided your behavior. That is exactly where inner defeat begins. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself again and again that another person's anger belonged to them, not to him. If someone arrived carrying frustration, resentment, or arrogance, Marcus refused to carry those emotions for them. He understood that anger spreads like fire. The moment you accept another person's emotional state as your own, the fire has already crossed into your mind. Imagine standing between 2 mirrors facing one another. Each reflection produces another reflection until the original image disappears beneath endless copies. Human conflict often follows the same pattern. One person's frustration creates another person's frustration. One insult produces another insult. Soon, neither person remembers the real issue because both are trapped inside reflections of the same emotion. The Stoic answer is surprisingly simple. Pause, not because silence makes you weak. Pause because a few seconds of awareness restore ownership of your mind. Before answering, notice your breathing. Feel your feet against the ground. Relax your jaw. Lower your shoulders. Let your heartbeat slow naturally. Observe the emotion instead of obeying it. Those few quiet seconds often determine whether you guide the conversation or become another victim of it. Modern psychology describes this as creating space between stimulus and response. The Stoics practiced the same principle centuries earlier. They understood that freedom exists inside that small space. Without it, instinct rules. With it, reason returns. The goal is not to eliminate anger. Anger is a natural human emotion. The goal is to stop anger from becoming the author of your decisions. As you practice this habit, something remarkable begins to happen. You stop absorbing every emotional wave around you. Instead of asking, "How do I defend myself?" you begin asking, "Why is this person reacting this way?" Curiosity quietly replaces defensiveness. Observation replaces impulse. Your attention shifts from protecting your ego to understanding the situation. That is the first transformation every Stoic experiences. You stop being a mirror that reflects everyone else's emotions. You become the person who remains steady while others lose themselves. And once your mind learns to stay calm, a new challenge appears. Because even when your thoughts become disciplined, your body can still reveal every emotion you are trying to hide. That is where the next lesson begins. Number 2, control your body before your words. Most people believe confrontation is won by choosing the right words. The Stoics understood something far more important. Your body speaks long before your mouth ever does. Long before you explain your position, people notice your breathing. They notice how quickly you answer. They notice whether your shoulders become tense, whether your eyes begin wandering, whether your voice suddenly grows louder or higher. Before your argument is judged, your presence has already been judged. That is why many intelligent people lose confrontations they should have handled easily. Their reasoning remains sound, but their bodies reveal fear, frustration, or desperation. The message may be logical, yet the delivery quietly communicates emotional instability. Imagine sitting across from your manager during a difficult performance review. You know your work has been strong, yet unexpected criticism fills the room. Your hands tighten around the chair, your breathing becomes shallow. You begin explaining too quickly, interrupting before the criticism is even finished. Without realizing it, your body tells the other person that they have already pushed you off balance. Now imagine the opposite. The same criticism arrives, but this time you inhale slowly. Your shoulders remain relaxed. Your hands stay still. You allow a brief silence before speaking. Your voice becomes lower instead of louder. You answer one point at a time without rushing to defend every detail. The situation has not changed, but the balance of power has. A calm body sends a silent message that words alone never can. It tells the other person that your emotions are not available for manipulation. Even those who disagree with you instinctively recognize steadiness. Confidence rarely announces itself. It is usually observed through small physical signals repeated consistently under pressure. The Stoics practiced this long before modern science explained why it works. They knew that the body and the mind constantly influence one another. A restless body encourages a restless mind. A steady posture supports steady thinking. Think of a quiet lake at sunrise. When the surface is still, every reflection becomes clear. But when the water is disturbed, even the brightest landscape becomes distorted. Your body works the same way. If your breathing, posture, and movements become chaotic, your judgment also becomes harder to trust. History offers another example. Cato the Younger became famous not because he shouted louder than his political opponents, but because he refused to appear shaken by pressure. Even those who opposed him respected the discipline with which he carried himself. His composure strengthened his arguments before he ever spoke. You can practice the same discipline in everyday life. Before responding, place both feet firmly on the ground, relax your shoulders, unclench your jaw, slow your breathing until each sentence begins naturally instead of forcefully. Lower your voice slightly instead of raising it. Speak more slowly than your emotions encourage you to speak. These habits seem almost too simple, yet together they create a powerful psychological effect. Your body stops feeding panic back into your mind. Your thinking becomes clearer. Your words become fewer, calmer, and more deliberate. Instead of chasing control through louder speech, you begin creating authority through quiet presence. This is the second transformation. You no longer try to look confident. You become physically grounded, and genuine confidence follows naturally. But even a calm body is not the highest form of strength. Sometimes the greatest power in a confrontation comes from saying almost nothing at all. Number 3, let silence become your weapon. Most people walk into a confrontation believing they must always have an answer. The moment another person criticizes them, they begin explaining. The moment someone makes an accusation, they rush to defend themselves. Every second of silence feels uncomfortable, so they fill it with words. Ironically, the more they speak, the more control they surrender. A person who cannot tolerate silence often reveals insecurity without realizing it. Think about a disagreement between two co-workers. One reacts immediately, talking faster with every sentence, adding explanation after explanation, trying to make sure nothing is misunderstood. The other listens quietly. He allows the first person to finish completely. He takes a slow breath, thinks for a moment, and then answers in 2 or 3 calm sentences. Who appears more confident? Usually, it is not the person who spoke the most. It is the person who never looked rushed. The Stoics understood that silence is not the absence of strength. It is disciplined restraint. They believed wisdom begins by observing before judging, listening before responding, and thinking before speaking. Epictetus was known for reminding his students that nature gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Listen more than you speak. Observe more than you react. The man who understands first usually leads later. Imagine an experienced archer standing perfectly still before releasing an arrow. His power does not come from constant movement. It comes from patience, balance, and timing. Words work exactly the same way. Every unnecessary sentence weakens the force of the sentence that truly matters. Silence also creates psychological space. When you refuse to react immediately, the emotional rhythm of the confrontation changes. The other person expects resistance. Instead, they meet composure. They expect interruption. Instead, they hear nothing. Very often, they continue talking, revealing more than they originally intended. Their emotions become visible while yours remain under your control. This does not mean using silence to manipulate people. It means refusing to let impulse dictate your speech. A practical exercise is surprisingly simple. During your next difficult conversation, allow the other person to finish every sentence before you begin yours. After they stop speaking, pause for 2 or 3 seconds. Think about what actually needs to be said. Remove every sentence spoken only to protect your pride. Then answer calmly, directly, and briefly. You will discover that fewer words often carry greater weight. People listen more carefully when every sentence has purpose. More importantly, you begin trusting yourself enough to know that you do not need constant explanation to prove your worth. If you want to build that kind of quiet strength, write "calm is my strength" in the comments. Small commitments repeated consistently become part of your identity, and every confrontation becomes another opportunity to practice them, because silence alone is not enough. If your silence is only wounded pride hiding behind closed lips, you are still being controlled by your ego. That is why the next lesson may be the most difficult of all. Learning to stop fighting for your ego every time someone challenges you. Number 4, never fight for your ego. Not every confrontation deserves your energy, yet your ego will try to convince you otherwise. It whispers that every disagreement is a threat to your identity. Someone questions your opinion, and it feels as though they are questioning your worth. Someone criticizes your decision, and you immediately begin searching for evidence to prove that you are right. Without realizing it, the conversation stops being about solving a problem and becomes a desperate attempt to defend an image of yourself. This is where many confrontations quietly become wars that never needed to happen. Imagine a husband and wife discussing something as simple as household responsibilities. The conversation begins with a practical issue that could easily be solved. Then one careless sentence changes everything. One person says, "You never appreciate what I do." The other immediately replies, "That's not true. You're always exaggerating." Within minutes, they are no longer discussing today's problem. They are replaying arguments from years ago, collecting old mistakes, and trying to prove who has suffered more. The original issue has disappeared. Only 2 wounded egos remain. The Stoics believed this was one of the greatest traps of the human mind. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself that another person's opinion could never damage his character unless he allowed it to disturb his judgment. His dignity did not depend on winning debates or defeating opponents. It depended on remaining faithful to reason. That single distinction gave him extraordinary freedom. He no longer needed every conversation to end with victory because his self-respect did not depend upon another person's approval. Picture someone holding a piece of burning charcoal, waiting for the perfect moment to throw it at another person. The longer they hold it, the more their own hand burns. Resentment, pride, and wounded ego work exactly the same way. Every minute you spend protecting your pride is another minute your own peace is quietly disappearing. The person you are trying to defeat may not even be thinking about the argument anymore, yet you continue carrying it inside your mind. That is why the Stoics asked a different question. Instead of asking, "How do I prove that I'm right?" ask, "What response allows me to keep my character?" Those two questions lead to completely different lives. One produces endless conflict, the other produces lasting peace. This does not mean becoming passive or accepting disrespect. Some situations require firm boundaries. Some lies must be corrected. Some actions must be confronted directly. Stoicism has never been about weakness. It has always been about discipline. You can speak with absolute firmness without allowing anger or pride to control your words. The next time someone challenges you, pause before answering. Ask yourself whether you are protecting the truth or simply protecting your image. If your only goal is to avoid looking wrong, your ego has already taken control. But if your goal is to reach the best outcome with clarity and self-respect, your response will become calmer, shorter, and far more effective. Over time, something remarkable begins to happen. You stop measuring success by the number of arguments you win. You begin measuring success by the amount of peace you preserve. That is the fourth transformation. You no longer need to defeat every person who disagrees with you. You only need to remain the kind of person your principles would respect. And once your ego becomes quieter, another door begins to open. You stop seeing difficult people as enemies to defeat. You begin seeing them as human beings whose behavior is often shaped by struggles you cannot yet see. Number 5. Separate the person from the moment. One of the greatest reasons people lose their calm is that they confuse a person's behavior with the person's identity. Someone speaks harshly, and you immediately decide they are a bad person. A coworker becomes defensive, and you conclude they are impossible to work with. A family member says something hurtful, and you begin believing they have always intended to hurt you. In a single emotional moment, one action becomes an entire identity. The Stoics warned against this mistake because it blinds us to reality. Most people do not wake up planning to make your life difficult. They react according to their habits, fears, disappointments, insecurities, and limited understanding. Their behavior may still require a response, but that response becomes wiser when you stop assuming you fully understand who they are. Imagine a father arriving home after an exhausting day at work. He has spent hours solving problems, dealing with pressure, and worrying about finances. His young son runs toward him, excited to show a drawing he made at school. Instead of smiling, the father impatiently tells him to be quiet. The child feels rejected. The father feels misunderstood. Both are suffering, but for completely different reasons. If the child grows up believing, "My father never loved me," he has confused one painful moment with an entire human being. If the father later realizes what happened, he may carry guilt for years over words he never truly meant. This is how countless relationships slowly become damaged. The Stoics encouraged a different perspective. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that when people behaved badly, they usually acted out of ignorance rather than deliberate malice. They believed they were pursuing something good, even if their judgment was mistaken. That idea did not excuse harmful behavior, but it prevented hatred from becoming the automatic response. Think about the sky during a violent storm. Dark clouds can completely cover the sun. Thunder shakes the ground. Rain reduces everything to shadows. Yet above those clouds, the sky itself remains unchanged. Human character often works the same way. Fear, anger, stress, embarrassment, or exhaustion can temporarily cover the best qualities a person possesses. What you see in one difficult moment may not represent who they are every day. This perspective changes the way you confront people. Instead of asking, "What is wrong with this person?" ask, "What might this person be carrying that I cannot see?" That single question creates emotional distance between your judgment and your reaction. It does not make you naive, it makes you observant. In practical terms, slow down before assigning permanent labels. Correct harmful behavior when necessary. Establish boundaries when respect is missing. but avoid turning one emotional moment into a permanent definition of another human being. You will communicate more clearly because your goal is understanding before condemnation. Over time, this habit transforms your relationships. You become harder to provoke because you stop taking every emotional outburst personally. You begin seeing patterns instead of isolated explosions. Compassion quietly replaces resentment without weakening your standards. That is the fifth transformation. You no longer react only to what people do. You begin seeing the invisible struggles that often shape why they do it. And when you can understand another person's struggle without surrendering your own principles, every confrontation becomes something unexpected. It becomes training, not for changing them, but for strengthening yourself. Number 6, make every confrontation your training ground. Most people spend their lives trying to avoid difficult people. The Stoics spent their lives learning from them. Every unpleasant conversation, every unfair accusation, every impatient customer, every disrespectful coworker, every family disagreement presents the same opportunity. You can either see it as another reason to become frustrated, or you can see it as another repetition in the lifelong practice of self-mastery. That single shift changes everything. Imagine someone who trains in a gym. Heavy weights are uncomfortable. Muscles become tired. Progress feels slow. Yet no one walks into a gym expecting comfort. They understand that resistance is the very thing producing strength. The mind develops in exactly the same way. Without resistance, patience remains untested. Without criticism, emotional discipline remains theoretical. Without confrontation, calm never becomes a habit. Seneca believed that a peaceful life without challenge often creates a fragile character. Difficulties reveal weaknesses that comfort quietly hides. Every obstacle becomes a teacher because it exposes the parts of ourselves that still need discipline. Think back to your last serious argument. Perhaps someone interrupted you repeatedly. Perhaps a stranger spoke with unnecessary disrespect. Perhaps a person you trusted disappointed you. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask a different question. What part of myself is this situation training today? Maybe it is patience. Maybe it is humility. Maybe it is courage. Maybe it is emotional restraint. That single question immediately changes your relationship with conflict. You stop feeling like a victim of every difficult person. You begin seeing each confrontation as another exercise strengthening your inner stability. Picture a blacksmith forging a sword. The steel is heated until it glows. Then it is struck again and again with enormous force. Without those repeated blows, the blade never develops its strength. Human character follows the same principle. Pressure does not automatically destroy you. Properly understood, pressure reveals where you must become stronger. Marcus Aurelius never wished for a life without difficult people. Instead, he reminded himself every morning that he would meet people who were impatient, selfish, arrogant, dishonest, or ungrateful. By expecting human imperfection, he stopped being surprised by it. More importantly, he refused to let another person's character determine his own. You can practice this every day. After every confrontation, spend just a few minutes reflecting. Ask yourself 3 simple questions. What triggered my emotions? What did I handle well? What will I improve next time? Do not replay the conversation to punish yourself. Replay it to educate yourself. Every difficult interaction becomes a lesson instead of another emotional burden. Weeks become months. Months become years. One day you realize that situations which once destroyed your peace now barely disturb your thinking. That is not because the world became kinder. It is because you became stronger. If you are committed to building that kind of strength, write "I choose calm over chaos" in the comments. Let it be a promise to yourself that every future confrontation will become another opportunity to practice discipline instead of another excuse to lose control. That is the 6th transformation. You stop asking life to remove difficult people. You begin thanking life for giving you opportunities to strengthen your character. And once every confrontation becomes training, one final change naturally follows. Calm is no longer something you practice. It becomes part of who you are. Number 7, Become the man nothing can shake. Real calm is not something you perform, it is something you become. Most people believe emotional control means hiding their feelings. They smile while anger burns inside. They stay silent while resentment quietly grows. They appear composed, yet their minds remain trapped in the confrontation long after it has ended. That is not stoic calm, it is emotional suppression. A truly calm person no longer needs to fight every emotional impulse because years of deliberate practice have changed the way they interpret the world. They understand that another person's words cannot define their worth. They know that temporary discomfort does not require an immediate reaction. Most importantly, they realize that peace is not a reward given by other people. It is a discipline created from within. Imagine an ancient lighthouse standing on a rocky coastline. Day after day, waves crash against its foundation. Storms arrive without warning. Powerful winds push against its walls. Yet the lighthouse does not argue with the sea. It does not become angry at the storm. It simply continues doing what it was built to do. Your mind can become like that lighthouse. People will still criticize you. Some will misunderstand your intentions. Others may disrespect your kindness or question your decisions. None of those things disappear. What changes is your response. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire filled with political conflict, betrayal, war, and uncertainty. Yet he continually returned to one simple truth. No external event had the power to corrupt his character unless he willingly surrendered his judgment. That perspective allowed him to remain steady while the world around him constantly changed. This is the destination of every lesson you have learned. You stop reacting to other people's emotions. You control your body before your words. You discover the strength of silence. You refuse to let your ego lead the conversation. You separate a person's difficult moment from their true identity. You treat every confrontation as another opportunity to strengthen your character. Together, these habits create something far more valuable than winning arguments. They create an unshakable mind, and that is the final transformation. You no longer measure your strength by how loudly you can defend yourself. You measure it by how peacefully you can remain yourself. When calm becomes your identity instead of your temporary strategy, every confrontation loses the power to control you. From that moment forward, your greatest victory is no longer changing another person's behavior. It is protecting your own character, no matter what stands in front of you. Every confrontation gives you two choices. You can spend your energy trying to control another person's emotions, or you can spend that same energy mastering your own. Only one of those choices leads to lasting peace. Throughout this journey, you have discovered a simple but life-changing Stoic truth. Calm is not something you find after the conflict is over. Calm is the reason you can move through conflict without losing yourself. It begins when you stop reacting to other people's emotions. It grows stronger when you control your body before your words. It deepens when you learn the strength of silence, refuse to let your ego lead the conversation, see people beyond their worst moments, and treat every confrontation as another opportunity to strengthen your character. The world will never stop testing you. There will always be criticism, misunderstandings, disappointment, and difficult people. But none of those things have the power to decide who you become. That decision belongs to you alone. Every calm response is a quiet victory. Every disciplined reaction strengthens your character. Every confrontation handled with wisdom brings you one step closer to becoming the kind of person nothing can shake. If this video helped you see confrontation in a new way, subscribe to the channel and join us for more practical lessons inspired by Stoic philosophy. There is another video waiting for you that will help you build even greater emotional strength and inner discipline. Before you go, I'd love to hear from you. Which of these 7 Stoic principles do you think will make the biggest difference the next time someone challenges your peace? Share your answer in the comments, and remember, your greatest victory is never over another person. It is over the impulse that once controlled you.